Hey, welcome in. Jim Comparoni at East Lansing. It's Monday night. Michigan State Spartans getting ready to play Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturday in Columbus, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Michigan State ranked number 25 in the country. Ohio State number 4 this week. Some people think Ohio State's the best team in the country. We will see. This will be Ohio State's toughest test of the season so far. We think Nebraska was supposed to be somewhat of a test. Didn't turn out to be all that difficult for the Buckeyes in Lincoln last weekend. If this is your first time to the SpartanMag Live podcast, grab a seat, grab a beverage, sit down, post, chime in, keep the insults to a minimum. All right, we can handle a few insults. It's all right. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. SpartanMag.com is the Michigan State website at Rivals.com. We come here for the chat session here on the YouTube channel every Monday night at 8:30, talking about Michigan State's last game and looking forward to the upcoming game. We take questions from the masses, from the maggers, from all over the world. They have posted at SpartanMag.com. I'll read some of those questions here. Also, there will be some questions in the chat area here on the site. We appreciate everybody joining in. It's been a lot of fun so far this season. Michigan State 4-1 coming off the victory over Indiana. You guys all saw that game, 40-31. Entertaining game. Michigan State played well in some ways, finished strongly, had some errors in other ways, and left an inferior team in the game that was very fired up. And Indiana gave Michigan State all it could handle. We will get into that a little bit more as we go. The news tonight, of course, Connor Heyward is being reported, has entered the transfer portal. He missed the game on Saturday. D'Antonio said officially due to personal reasons. Last week on the Underground Bunker message board, I posted that I was hearing that there was going to be players that joined Brandon Randall in the transfer portal. Connor Heyward is who we heard about. That's who we were looking to see if he was on the field during pregame or dressed for the game. He did not dress, obviously, and we were given the dress list right at kickoff, which is about as late as they ever do it. They were trying to keep that information to a minimum. D'Antonio said after the game that Heyward was missing for personal reasons. It's clear now that D'Antonio was giving Heyward time to rethink the situation. D'Antonio wants Heyward to stay on the team. Didn't snatch the jersey from him, Bear Bryant style, and tell him to hit the road. Gave him time. At that time, Brandon Randall was already in the transfer portal. At that time, D'Antonio could have said, yeah, Heyward's not on the team anymore. We wish him well. Instead, he gave Heyward time. But apparently doesn't need much more time, being reported that Heyward is in the transfer portal. Tough news for Michigan State, in my opinion. A lot of people had soured on Heyward a little bit as a playmaker, but a guy with his hands and blocking ability and a little bit of a run threat too. I know that he's been surpassed by Elijah Collins and Anthony Williams, and that's why he wants to move on. But at the running back position, you are always just one little tweak injury away from needing that guy. As I said in the VCast after the game on Saturday, we all remember when Iowa had to go like 4 or 5 deep at the running back position. You just never know when you're going to be snake bit in that type of situation. Heyward, I can understand it from his point of view. If he transfers now, I assume he will finish the semester at Michigan State academically. But if he transfers now, only plays 4 games, then he can preserve junior status for next year, wherever he ends up. Good kid, wish him well. Did well early in his career, did some good things on kickoff return, became a serviceable running back, led Michigan State in rushing last year, but kind of hit his ceiling as a running back, did he not? You can disagree with me on that if you want, but in the meantime, Elijah Collins has come on as an all-purpose back, doing some good things. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Let's go to the mailbag. We will go to the SpartanMag.com portion of the mailbag. These are SpartanMag subscribers over SpartanMag.com. We appreciate all the subscribers. C. Kozal out of Rochester Hills is going to be up first with the question. And we've got questions from people from Rochester Hills, Macomb, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, with a question. Granville, Michigan, Rockford, Michigan, East Lansing, Michigan, St. Louis, Missouri, and Chicago, and a few others. Ypsilanti, I think, represented. I only got to about 10 questions. Had to come in here and get started. Maybe we will go to an 11th question if time permits and if we buzz through these questions quickly. C. Kozal out of Rochester Hills asks, what is the likelihood of seeing Shaq Brown or A.J. Arcuri this weekend? I've got no inside information on Shaq Brown other than what Mark D'Antonio told us last night in the weekly Sunday teleconference when he said he feels like Shaq Brown is getting closer. Haven't seen him since the Tulsa game, I don't think. I would put Shaq Brown at 50%. I would put A.J. Curry at less than that, somewhere around 30 or 35%. By the way, give me a thumbs up on the sound. I've got the lapel mic a little bit further away from me this time. Hopefully there's less distortion. Let me know if the sound is okay on that. All right, question number 2 from the mailbag. Nanani 010. All right, Rob South, thumbs up, thanks. Nanani 010 from Macomb, Michigan. How is Michigan State going to attempt to block Chase Young? Chase Young is the All-American defensive end for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Will they keep a tight end next to Higbee and Reed at all times? Or Reed at all times? I assume he means traveling with Chase Young. This could be a key game for Noah Davis and his blocking. Noah Davis only played about 4 snaps in the last game. He played more at Northwestern. He was on the shelf last year with an injury. He is a good blocker. Yeah, Noah Davis is a guy that could come in, maybe have an impact in that regard. But do you want to bring a tight end in to pass protect all the time and take the tight end out of your pass game every single down? Good question about that. Chase Young has more sacks than anybody in college football over the last year and a half, going back to the start of the 2018 season. A lot of people think he might be the number 1 player taking overall in the draft next spring, the NFL draft. If he's not number 1, he might be number 2 to Tagovailoa. I said that incorrectly. From Alabama, some people think we'll go number 1, but Chase Young, big timer, no question about that. How do you deal with him? We will get, let's see here. I've got a few more questions dealing with that. I will include another question to tag team into that. West Side Spartan from Bend, Oregon asks, what are my thoughts on the Michigan State offensive line keeping Lewerke clean thus far? He points out that he saw a stat recently that Michigan State has allowed only 4 sacks all season, tied for number 9, fewest nationally. Ohio State has 24 sacks for their defense. That ranks number 2 in the country. So number 9 in the country in pass protection against number 2 in the country in pass rush. Great matchup there. Michigan State's number 1 in the Big Ten in fewest sacks allowed, fewer than a half sack per game, and fewer than a sack per game, actually, 4 for the season, 5 games. And Ohio State's number 1 in the Big Ten in sacks. Classic matchup. Frankly, I'm surprised. Also, let's see, Nanani asked me to elaborate further on the Terry Samuel discussion that Amy was talking about on one of the message boards. I didn't see what Amy said, so I can't comment specifically on that. I think he said something about wide receivers being more thin than they should be at Michigan State because some wide receivers moved on. I'm not sure. I didn't see the post specifically, so I'm not going to comment on it. But I did speak with Amy on the phone, and I think that's what he was talking about. We were talking about Michigan State's pass protection. I'm surprised that Michigan State's pass protection has been so good this year thus far. Number 1 in the Big Ten in fewest sacks allowed. When you think about pass rush teams, Northwestern had a pretty good one with Gaziano, kept him quiet for the most part, got to the quarterback, I think, once. Arizona State didn't really have great edge rush. They did a good job with their 30 and their stunts. Tulsa, good job, 30 defense. And they were either bringing wholesale blitzes or dropping 8. And Michigan State kept things clean. Some of that has to do with the quarterback. Pre-snap read, knowing when to get rid of it. His elusiveness has something to do with it also. Western Michigan, not much of a pass rush, if any. Indiana, pass rush, not much. Decent defense in some regards, but pass rush is not their specialty. We talked about that in pre-snap read. So Michigan State has kept Lewerke clean, but they've not seen a quality pass rush yet. Northwestern's been good in the past. Gaziano's good. 99 coming off the bench is pretty good. But they've not seen a quality pass rush. Ohio State's not a quality pass rush team. They're a quality pass rush plus. Big time pass rush. So we will learn more about Michigan State's pass protection in this game. Certainly it was a big question mark when Cole Chewins went down with the injury. Then A.J. Curry went down with an injury. Then Kevin Jarvis was getting acclimated to the position, was starting to look pretty good at offensive tackle. Went down with an injury in the Arizona State game, I think it was. And then Tyler Higbee is basically Michigan State's number 4 choice at left tackle. Struggled a little bit against Northwestern, 3 negative plays in that game. But the majority of his plays against Northwestern were fully functional. Solid at left tackle. It's strange to say solid at left tackle for most of the plays and then 3 bad ones. That's kind of what it was. But against Indiana, I didn't see any negative plays from him. Now, again, not the greatest pass rush in the world. D'Antonio was complimentary of Higbee Sunday night at the teleconference. So Higbee gaining confidence there. Athletic guy, moves his feet pretty well. Now he'll be going against Chase Young and the other guy, I think it's Hubbard, number 18. Still looking at their film. I watched Ohio State closely against Indiana. Need to watch them some more heading into the pre-snap read at the end of the week. Looking for ways that Michigan State, Cooper's name, Jonathan Cooper. Hubbard was a guy that he had a few years ago, but Cooper's the other defensive end. So Higbee's going to see both of them, and this will be the ultimate test for Higbee. And Michigan State is going to have to play it as it goes, see how it goes, and if it becomes a problem, then you chip block them a little bit with the running backs here and there, tight ends here and there, move the pocket here and there. You can't do the same thing every single time, though. You have to vary it. Some quick game, some run game would help also. Michigan State's run game has been spotty, showed signs of life at times, showed a lot of sign of life against Western Michigan and mediocre defense, but basically it's settled down into being like 120 yard per game. Rush offense need to be better than that. Can you catch Ohio State a little bit with some different looks? You know, Michigan State gained 142 yards rushing against Indiana, a little better than I thought. Gained 153, lost 11. So they gained 153, netted 142. They get that against Ohio State, that'll be progress. I was interested to see the way Nebraska showed the old I formation in the second quarter. Caught Ohio State by surprise with some of those things. I formation, fullback trap, almost busted both of those for a touchdown, which would have cut the lead to 14-7. On a 3rd and short, they ran like a Turner Gill counter quarterback sweep. Crowd was going crazy in Lincoln. I formation, running old Tom Osborne stuff, they were going crazy. Almost brought a tear to my eye. Well, not really, but I appreciated what that was, a throwback to football, to the old football. And football coaches always talk about football being cyclical. The old stuff will come back. I wasn't sure I formation would ever come back, but with all these defense becoming lighter and lighter and more attack-oriented, one gap, if you're one gap up front, more susceptible to some trap plays. So maybe that will come full circle. The things that are going on now with shotgun, not so much pistol, but shotgun, quarterback read, zone read. I've said this before, you know, Urban Meyer was a big practitioner of that, one of the forerunners of it, but he says it's nothing more than 1940s single wing offense. So everything does come back around. So Lewerke being clean, I think it has to do with Michigan State has not yet seen a great pass rush. That's about all I've got to say about that, to quote Forrest Gump. Let me see if I can find the questions here. Yeah, here it is. All right. All right, let's check it out now. Going to the questions here on the YouTube channel. Rob South, Connor Heyward is my guy. This one hurts. I hear you. That's kind of a rare opinion, though, because judging by our message board, a lot of people were getting a little bit losing a little patience with him. But he's a good kid doing his best. I saw him coming off the field last Tuesday after practice. He was coming off by himself. I got the idea that he'd stayed out and worked a little longer. Knowing what we know now, I would have taken a longer look at him. You know, he just seemed like he'd put in a hard days of work, but we didn't know what he was going through mentally at that time, whether or not he was going to, in the decisions that he was going to make. Interesting. JPB 1576. How many new wrinkles do you expect to see out of the offense this week? I maybe a little bit more than usual when you're trying to stay in a game, but there've been new wrinkles every single week. This week the wrinkles, you know, Michigan State went with some outside zone, including that 4th down play, which was not pretty. Outside zone is not necessarily a new wrinkle, except for, other than the fact that Michigan State ran it a little bit more, and in that situation was a surprise. Michigan State was under center for that play. Earlier in the game, Michigan State was under center for quarterback sneak. Barely made it. Elijah Collins had to push it in order to convert that one. Second time, and I think that time Indiana had 5 defensive linemen, goal line defense. Second time on 4th and 1, Indiana was, I think, only 4-man defensive front. And maybe Michigan State had one more receiver out than they did before, so maybe that's why Indiana didn't go all in. But maybe Michigan State was expecting them to be all in, double eagle, to take away the quarterback sneak, and it was so difficult the first time. So maybe that's why Michigan State chose to run around it. It's the only thing I can think of. And to run around it with their slowest running back, they'd like to have that one back for sure. Michigan State was up 7-0 driving. That was one of those plays, like Matt Dorsey said, left them in the game, and that was ugly. Meanwhile, they're running to the right, which is not Michigan State's strongest blockers. Carrick and Reed have not been blocking as well as the left side, so they went slowest running back to the weakest side. And Reed and Carrick and the tight end Seibert and Reed both gave up some penetration. So, I mean, Indiana did a good job stringing that thing out and pushing it back. Bad look all the way around. You saw it. In terms of other wrinkles, Michigan State had an assortment of things. The chief among them talked about it in the VCast, wrote about it at SpartanMag.com in the post game. The window dressing into Brian Lewerke's big quarterback run plays. 14-yard gain on the drive that led to the 45-yard field goal that gave Michigan State a 7-point lead going into the last 3 minutes. Indiana comes down, drives, scores, touchdown, ties it up, 31-31. 44-yard pass to Darrell Stewart. Next play was when Lewerke had that keeper, when he thought about scoring and kind of allowed himself to get tackled at the 1-yard line. Can't remember how many yards he gained on that, but terrific play on that one. They're just trying to get in field goal range. Before the snap, I said to the people next to me, I'm like, quarterback draw, because they had vacated the middle. Nebraska did. Michigan State had gone ultra spread, put the receivers out there. They were defending that. They were defending the pass aggressively. And on that play, Lewerke rushed for 30 yards. That was 1st and 10 of the Indiana 31-yard line. So Michigan State was not in field goal range yet. And Indiana presumably was playing defense to keep Michigan State out of field goal range. They elected to defend the pass, and the middle of the field was open. And I thought if Michigan State had a pass play on, tuck and run, get some yards, instead of doing a tuck and run, they had zone read. Here's where it was a new wrinkle. It was fly sweep, power, read option. So you had fly sweep coming, which was one of the first plays they ran earlier in the game to Larice Nelson. Power fly sweep. And Larice Nelson gained like 5 yards or something, took a big hit. I think that was the first play of the drive. There was another time when they threw it to Larice Nelson, and there were times when Lewerke was not on the same page with his receivers. It's happened a lot, and he was cranky about it. He was cranky with Larice Nelson about this. He was cranky with C.J. Hayes against Arizona State on a snag route. We talked about that in a podcast here a couple weeks ago. These receivers need to get on the same page with Lewerke. I assume it's the receiver's fault. On this one, Larice Nelson ran an out route at about 17 yards, and Lewerke threw it at 12 yards, incomplete, and Lewerke was cranky about it. So Larice Nelson was on the field for the first play of the drive on that play. Why is he on the field for the first play? Because Darrell Stewart brought the kickoff back. And I'm assuming Darrell Stewart runs the kickoff back, goes to the sideline for a blow for one play. So Larice Nelson comes into the slot. And what do you have? You have a receiver out there that doesn't run the right route. So should Darrell Stewart be the kickoff returner? These are things you have to weigh. I talked about it years ago when they used Javon Ringer as a kickoff returner. I'm like, man, you're gassing him a little bit. And he was a great running back, but never a great threat to go a long way as a kick returner. How often do kick returns actually happen these days? I don't know, but Michigan State used to do that with Gary Scott. He would return the kick and go straight to the sideline. Back then, they had a little more depth at wide receiver than Michigan State has right now. Gary Scott returns the kick, goes and sits down. Nelson comes in, runs the wrong route. Can't have that crap if you want to beat Ohio State. There's a long list of little errors, and Michigan State had a lot of slippage against Arizona State. Much less against Northwestern. Too much against Indiana. Now they're playing arguably the best team in the country. Have to eliminate that slippage. The question, how many new wrinkles? All right, so Michigan State showed that power fly sweep to Larice Nelson, gained about 5 yards, took a hard hit. Just showed it. That set it up later in the game. In this situation, 14-yard gain for the field goal to go up by 7, and the 30-yarder down to the 1-yard line to set up the game-winning field goal. Show fly sweep power, and it's a read. Keeps it, gains 30 yards. You know that. That's new. Michigan State's had the fly sweep before. They've had read option before. They've had zone read option. Occasionally power read option, although they've not done it this year. This was power read with a fly sweep. That's Auburn stuff. That's Gus Malzahn stuff. Michigan State hadn't shown it on film at all. Nebraska or Indiana presumably had not worked on that at all. Had any Indiana opponents done that this year? I don't know. But it was a new look, sprung it on them for a big gain for the first field goal and a game-clinching gain for the second field goal. New wrinkle at the right time. Big-time play for Michigan State with that wrinkle. Also, they had a little wrinkle on just a different way of doing things on a third down pass to C.J. Hayes when, I got to find my notes here. There's a third down. Find it here. It was just a little rub route type situation. 3rd and 4, it was the field goal drive. It was the first field goal drive when they're up by 4. Go down there and take a 7-point lead. 3rd and 4, and Ladarius Jefferson in the game goes in motion, ends up being a little bunch over here. I think it was a bunch, but Jefferson ends up doing a little slant with C.J. Hayes, little rub to get C.J. Hayes open for a gain of 7, move the chains. But that motion into that type of rub, Michigan State with the rubs, subtle with it, no pass interferences this week. Had it against Arizona State, which cost them the game, and that wasn't even a rub. That was just a stack release that I'm still not sure it should have been a flag. But that's a new wrinkle to get that third down play. We saw some new wrinkles on some third down situations. Let me see. I should have made a list of this. I should have anticipated that question. But anyway, other new stuff. There's been new stuff every week. What was... see, this is where I wish I'd looked into that. I should have been prepared for that. Those are things that I look for. But how many against Ohio State? There'll be some. They have to be some. We have no way of knowing what they're going to be. I wish I could give you more other examples in recent games. Rob South, what up, fellas? Offense looked great. Lewerke's looking good, as is the offense. What's going on with the D? Just the quick passes. Well, we might as well get into that a little bit now. Some of the other questions pertain to that also. Mike Bove from Granville asks, how can Michigan State defend the slot while still remaining stout against the run? That gets back to the point. I appreciate Mike Bove, saying that and bringing some good information to it, because that's what I've written about for a number of years. Michigan State philosophically wants to stop the run first and discourage big plays. And with today's offense, the zone read and all these things, and RPOs now, tempo, spread, if you're going to keep 2 safeties deep, and Michigan State doesn't play safeties real deep. They just kind of play just on the edge of linebacker level. They play shallow, more shallow than most teams in terms of where safety depth is. 2 safeties deep, whether they're in cover 4 or cover 2, usually cover 4, occasionally cover 1 man-to-man. A lot of times cover 3 when they're blitzing, 3 across them in the back. Either way, they've got a safety net built in to try to prevent big plays. They want to stop the run, prevent big plays, make you drive. That's what Indiana did. They drove. I think Indiana took a page out of Northwestern's book. I think they probably researched what Northwestern's done over the years. Those bubbles. Northwestern, not always a big bubble team. They're more of a slot out team, but attacking the slot. The slot area is usually the place that Michigan State leaves open, because they're going to press the widest receivers usually. Maybe they'll leave one off on the wide side if the quarterback doesn't have much of an arm, but this guy had a big arm. So they pressed both. 2 safeties deep. Defending the run. So the slot, that's where the window is. That's where the window was when they played Northwestern for years and years, when Narduzzi was here. That's where the window was when they played Baylor, and Baylor rolled up 500 yards of offense. I did a study on this in the magazine back in the old days, looked at what Baylor did on offense, and like 16 or 17 of their completions that day were just to the slot on a free release, slot. Michigan State's willing to let you drive. They're banking that at some point you're going to have a penalty, holding, procedure penalty, put you behind the chains a little bit, and as long as Michigan State tackles the slot out, they figure they can keep you from getting a first down. They think at some point you're going to throw inaccurately, or you're going to drop a pass, or at some point a quarterback's going to get some heat while he throws, gets hit or something. And then if you do drive to the 25, provided that you don't get a big play, once you get into the red zone, that window shrinks, and they figure they can stop you there and kick more and force you to kick field goals. It's not ideal to give up field goals, especially if you're Michigan State's offense from last year, losing games 9-7 and things of that nature. But against Baylor that year, Michigan State forced Baylor to attempt more field goals than Baylor attempted all year. In that regard, Michigan State succeeded. Where they failed in that game is that Baylor scored some big plays. Double pass, touchdown. Deep, seam, cover 3 blitz, touchdown, just like Oregon did. 80-yarder, 50-yarder, and then they had that trick play to the tackle eligible. Scored from outside the red zone. Credit to Baylor on that one. But that's Michigan State's philosophy. They've had good defense over the years. They want to stop the run, prevent big plays. Indiana, to their credit, accurate. Whoa, that dude was accurate. I mean, everybody, he's got the big arm, zip, but accurate. Even the touchdown that he threw to tie the game, actually it was their second to last touchdown, when Hale, the 6'4" receiver, posted up Josiah Scott, touchdown. And that one, it's right hash mark all the way across the field. And yeah, he's posting them up, but I mean he bullseyed that thing on a line. Secondly, check out the brain on Michael Penix. I mean, the dude was processing fast, coming out, bam, bam. The brain on that guy, processing. Excellent. For a freshman, making his first road start in the Big Ten. The arm is one thing, and he's got foot speed. We didn't even see that. But accurate and arm and the brain, going to be a problem. So, Michigan State left the slot area open to stop the run. And the dude was, when he's throwing those bubbles, some of those, I mean, Whop Filliar, number 1, get out there in the bubble, and he's catching it right here, in stride. Bill Walsh 101, West Coast offense. You throw it out to the running back. They want it in stride, so the running back doesn't even have to break stride. Because the difference between getting it in stride and having to do this or whatever is the difference between being tackled by the linebacker running the alley for a gain of 3 or getting outside for a gain of 8 or 9 or more. He was in stride over and over. And that's what helped take those bubbles, and instead of becoming a 3 or 4 yard gain or a 2-yard loss like on the very first play of the game and turning those into gains of 6, then you miss a tackle, then it's 16. Accurate, zip, and quick. I mean, making a quick decision on those. So, Indiana's package was good. They hadn't shown much bubble at all. So, Michigan State was surprised by that. They didn't have much film on Penix. I mean, he played against Ball State and he played against Eastern Illinois. Then he sat out 2 games. They had to prepare for Peyton Ramsey and Penix. Peyton Ramsey is the leading all-time pass completion completion percentage in Indiana history. And this guy beat him out. You can see why. So, they surprised Michigan State with those bubbles, attacking that slot area, which a lot of teams do, but not many teams do it that well. At Michigan State, the intensity level was maybe down a little bit. Coming into the game, Indiana was the team that had missed a lot of tackles. They missed like 23 tackles against Ball State. And Michigan State's been the team that's tackled great all season. But in this game, Michigan State was the team missing tackles, and Indiana was the team tackling halfway decent. So that flipped. That's just intensity and focus, I would think. But Indiana was fired up for this game. They considered it a rivalry game. Maybe not a rivalry game, it's a trophy game. They were looking for a signature win, and they almost got it, and they played great. So you talk to Bocce and those guys and Antoine Simmons, he's like, hey man, they just had a great game plan. We weren't expecting some of those formations, so we kind of had to adapt on the fly. So Indiana played well. One of these questions asked about what changes did Michigan State make during the game. And they went to more man-to-man in the fourth quarter, which closed up the space, closed that window on the slot. But when they went 3 receivers to one side, like just before Brandon Soward's long punt return, Michigan State went man-to-man. They stopped first down. Second down, they went deep. They saw it was man-to-man. They called the deep shot. The guy was wide open, overthrew him. That was Phil Yor against David Dowell. 3 receivers over here. They brought corners over. Rather than one corner over here and one corner on the other side, they brought both corners over here to try to combat some of the 3 and even 4 receivers to one side formations they were doing. when you do that, that usually declares man-to-man, although Michigan State can bring corners over and still play zone. They didn't do it on this game, and they've done it in past years. That's really high-end stuff to have both corners over and drop one of them to essentially play like a safety. They used to do that with Darqueze Dennard. That's big time. I haven't seen that out of them yet. We might see it at some point. But, so adjustments, man-to-man. So then Indiana adjustment. If you're going to play press against all four, and David Dowell wasn't quite pressed. He was maybe 3 yards off, but they just ran a go route, and he ran past David Dowell, and he was open. If that's a touchdown, they go up by 10. With 10 minutes to go, that would have been TKO shot right there. So Michigan State adjusted, took that away, but then that's the adjustment from Indiana. They're just going to attack it with some go routes. I said in the pre-snap read that those wide receivers were big and talented. I hadn't seen Phil York play like that, but we've seen slot receivers have days like that against Michigan State. They got into a rhythm, did some stuff Michigan State wasn't prepared for, and Michigan State just kind of survived. People are asking, what is Michigan State going to do to take that away from Ohio State? Ohio State's not a big bubble team. Ohio State's just going to do what they do. I don't think you have to worry about the bubble. There's plenty of other things to worry about. You might see it a little bit here and there, but they've not. I'll have to watch more of them this week. I went through the Indiana game, went through half the Nebraska game. I got to go back and look for that specifically, but I don't remember them being much of a bubble team. So that part of it is just going to remain the same. Secondly, this is a big point. Joe Bacci mentioned that it seemed like every time Michigan State, had a call on, they had the perfect play call for it. Antoine Simmons said, he's pretty sure that the coaches were telling them what to do based on the coverages Michigan State were giving them. I know that Michigan State really shut things down on the sideline a little bit through the course of the game with telling some of the support staff to really conceal their signals and so forth. Hey, that's to Indiana's credit. One of the most untold stories and unwritten stories in college football is football espionage. I'm not saying it's illegal. I'm saying some teams have different level of resources to get info and intel on you. When does Michigan State... I kind of made mention of this last week. There have been times when Michigan State thought that opponents were stealing their signals, which is kind of legal, I guess. It's legal. How you obtained it, who knows? But there's a lot of espionage out there. There are some well-funded programs, and I'm sure Michigan State's doing it too. That's why everybody covers their mouth when they talk on the sidelines. They're not doing it for the heck of it. Do you remember when Michigan State played in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State and they turned the benches backwards? Remember that one? They weren't doing that for photo opportunity background stuff. There's been some thoughts that Northwestern over the years, how they just were eating you there. They had Michigan State chasing their tail on defense a lot. Some thoughts that maybe Northwestern had some intel. In this game, I think it was a candidate for situations where Indiana had some intel. Specifically, remember the throwback when Penix, like, on the left hash, like scrambled a little bit to his left, and without even looking deep down the right sideline, turned and threw it like he knew that was going to be wide open? Well, Michigan State cover 3 blitz. The blitz was coming. Cover 3. When they blitz, it's cover 3. So if you run a vertical route, you can clear that corner all the way to the end zone, and you can open up something underneath it, kind of a dagger concept. And on the backside, that's a cover 3 beater. If you got time to run it, cover 3, and bring an over route, say the ball's here, receivers here, you clear out this side and run an over route all the way over to the right sideline, that's a cover 3 beater. In this case, I think it was the same side guy. It wasn't from the other side, but that's a soft spot if you have time to run it all the way off. But that's only when you know it's going to be cover 3. Michigan State runs cover 3 when they blitz usually. Under Narduzzi, it was 98% of the time. Now they'll go blitz man-to-man a lot more in the last 2 or 3 years than they ever did before. That sure looked like they knew it was going to be there, to their credit. I'm just saying that looked funny. There's another time when there was when they happened to call a bubble right when the linebacker blitzed. I think it was Tyreek Thompson blitzed, bubble. That's just, are they really that lucky? We're going to flip coins, flip coins, flip coins. We're going to go shell game, shell game. Hey, why don't we run a bubble to the running back? I know they've been running bubbles the whole game, but let's run a bubble to the running back over here, right when and then the linebacker blitzes. The corner's bailing as part of that blitz. Kind of makes you go, to their credit. And even the touchdown, the first touchdown, remember when Josiah Scott let the receiver get wide open? Now, that's cloud coverage. Michigan State hadn't run cloud the whole game. So that's the one thing. I mean, were they that sure on that one that they were going to get cloud coverage? Because Michigan State didn't run cloud the whole day. Cloud is when the corner stays in the flat and covers the flat, whether it be running backs or tight ends or wide receiver on and out. But if the wide receiver goes deeper down the sideline, he's just going to stay right there and cover the flat, cover two halves. So he's got the flat area, and the safety has the deep half. So he's letting the wide receiver go, expecting the safety, Xavier Henderson, to get the other half there. But Xavier Henderson got clogged up. Two receivers both ended up running verticals. So Henderson's got to stay as deep as the deepest in the half. Well, he's got two deepest, and one of them is, so he's kind of bogged down in there. It's an 8-man coverage. Should the linebacker have rerouted a little bit and maybe run with him? I'm not sure. Should Bocce on the other one have caught the other guy on the play I mentioned earlier? Possibly. So on this one, D'Antonio talked about it in the teleconference on Sunday. They went to the inside receiver. Whop Philyor for that touchdown was wide open. He was the inside receiver. Westbrook was the outside receiver. Westbrook ran a post. Philyor ran like a 7, a corner route. But the way D'Antonio described it, he left and they were one behind the other, which some teams do, which makes it difficult for a zone defense to realize, or are they going to banjo that thing? Who takes the outside? Who takes the inside? So they conceal that as long as they can. Then the inside receiver runs a corner, completed his corner early, and then turned it up. D'Antonio said they had never shown that before, and he said they executed it well, and it sounded like Michigan State had not prepared specifically for that route combination when they do cover two, and they don't do cover two a lot. So Indiana just happened to spring that on them when Michigan State ran the cover two. And to their credit, firstly, they did that. Secondly, the new offensive coordinator for Indiana, the guy from the Dakotas that knows Brad Salem from years gone by, man, he did some good stuff. They did, there was a couple times when they had a tight end and a running back, and you think there's no receivers over there, but then they'll motion somebody, and then they spring out of there with 3. And you're like, well, that's not the wide receiver side. But in an instant, they've got 3 receivers over there. When at pre-snap, it might not look as daunting in terms of pass receiving threats. So anyway, sometimes a good quarterback gets into a rhythm. None of us in the media or fans knew that guy was that good. Sometimes it's a good offense that's got you schemed up. Sometimes they have a little intel. I'm not sure. Let's see, what was the other one? There's one or two others, but also Michigan State didn't tackle well, so that's part of it on some occasions, as well as they usually do. So credit to Indiana, but Michigan State's problems in the past game and that game, some of it was isolated incidents, in my opinion. But other stuff, the missed tackles, I've got 5 of them that were pretty costly. Indiana's second touchdown drive tied it up 14-14. Josiah Scott. It was a 16-yard gain. Little hitch, cover 3 blitz. And he misses a tackle, and instead of a 7-yard gain, it gets out for 16. That was another one of them. I mean, Penix, it's blitz, and he's going out there right now. Didn't even take time to make his read. Just throwing it out there right now. Blitz is coming, boom, that's a soft spot, knows it right now. And zip, it gets there an instant quicker than it does with some quarterbacks, and boom, it's accurate. Some of those times, it was just him processing it, which was very impressive. Other times, I think he had some information going, especially when they come to the line and he looks to the sideline and gets information. Now, a lot of teams do that, but man, they were getting a lot of it. They were getting a lot of information from the sideline, and it was just before some of those back-breaking plays. Not all the time, but on some key ones. Second missed tackle, Tyreek Thompson, who had a good game, and he's doing better, taking on blocks, defeating blocks. Coming off the edge one time, I saw him pass rush. I saw him do an inside-out move and a body lean. I'm like, whoa, Tyreek Thompson just keeps adding to his game. But missed a tackle on a jailbreak screen, 2nd and goal at the 14-yard line, 5:30 left in the first half. To Hale, if he catches it, well, he gets 5 extra yards after that missed tackle by Tyreek Thompson. Gets it down to the 7-yard line. Next pass interference, Gervin against Westbrook, 1st and goal, touchdown. If he tackles him on the spot, instead of 3rd and goal at the 7, it's like 3rd and goal at the 12. Do they still get pass interference on the next play? I'm not sure. There are more costly missed tackles coming up in a second. Third one, Xavier Henderson missed a tackle, and that gave them 17 yards after the tackles. 1st and 10 to the 48-yard line. This is during Indiana's first drive of the second half. The drive that was a field goal cuts it to 21-17. And after that missed tackle at the 48, gets them down into the red zone. On that one, there was a beautiful RPO. They RPO'd Antoine Simmons. Now here's what's going on with this. When I talk about Michigan State stopping the run first, essentially that means if they've got 5 offensive linemen, Michigan State's going to have 6 in the box. There's 6 gaps. They're going to man every gap. If they've got 6 linemen, 5 linemen and a tight end, State's going to have 7. And Michigan State's been committed to that for a long time. They're going to have enough people. They're going to have +1 in the box to stop the run. So if Antoine Simmons is leaning toward the box, he can't be out of the slot. So nowadays, with the RPO stuff, it used to be if you came in, the quarterback would keep it. Now the quarterback's throwing it on the RPO. This was one of those where they RPO'd Antoine Simmons. And Simmons was charging in to stop the run. That's what he's assigned to do. Throw it out to the slot. Now you got to make a tackle in space. Henderson missed it. 17 more yards down the field. And they get in field goal range and kick the field goal. Later in the game, Antoine Simmons was a little further out of the box and reacting a little slower to the run game. Including, it was a punt when they punted. It might have been, I think it was the 3 and out. It was just before that deep shot, incomplete, I think. And Antoine Simmons was a little bit further out, keeping an eye on the slot. So they hand it off, and Michigan State kind of gums it up, and Antoine Simmons ends up making the tackle anyway. Maybe a gain of 2, maybe no gain. But they didn't have him deployed as aggressively to stop the run. They started easing out to the slot. You might say they should have done that earlier in the game, but Indiana really didn't start getting rolling with that until about midway through the second quarter. It didn't really become a crisis till all of a sudden, the third quarter, and it's a crisis. So Michigan State adjusted from there, but normally they're going to +1 to stop the run and have their safeties back and make you be precise. This guy was precise. Missed tackle, the 4th one. Dowell, this was the big one. 3rd and 3. Oh, by the way, when Henderson missed that tackle, they got down in the red zone, kicked a field goal. 3rd and medium, Trey Person made one of the biggest plays of the game. It's a bubble screen like they've been doing the whole game. What do you have to do to beat the bubble? You got to get off a block and make a tackle. Someone's got to do it. They got 3 guys being blocked. Somebody's got to get off a block and make a tackle. And you got a safety coming to help too. On that play, Trey Person, in as part of the nickel defense, defeated a block, made a sweep tackle, got him down, forced a field goal. Now it's 21-17 instead of 21-21. Saved Michigan State 4 points right there. Trey Person, huge play. Opening drive, second half. In terms of missed tackles, 3rd and 3. This is on the drive where they took the lead 24-21, Indiana. David Dowell missed a tackle on a toss. 3rd and 3, a minute left in the third quarter. Willekes, in terms of adjustments, Michigan State was man-to-man. That was an adjustment. In terms of other adjustments, Willekes was starting to reduce in, usually from the split end side. That's an eagle. So rather than being a 5 technique, he was a 3 technique once in a while. And if the tight end was over there, instead of out there as a 7, he was a 5. He was inside the external gap. So I think they were doing some like scrape replace thing going on there. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but that was a change. That was an adjustment that they went to. I'm not saying it worked, but it was something. They didn't just stay back and just take punches the whole time. They were changing. This was man-to-man with that reduction for Willekes. They run a toss play. Dowell's in position to make a play. Goes for a shoestring tackle, misses the tackle. The guy gets out, gains the first down to the 14-yard line. A couple plays later, touchdown, and Michigan State's trailing 24-21 early in the fourth quarter. Dowell was upset with himself about that, but that's one of the missed tackles that hurt Michigan State. And then the 5th one, 2:51 to go. Michigan State's up 31-24. This is the game-tying touchdown for Indiana. 3rd and 10. They throw a little pass out here to Hale, and Kalen Gervin has a chance to tackle him. At about 5 yards or 6 yards, misses the tackle. He gets out of it, gets a first down, gains 12. and that sets up the touchdown tie later on in the game. Now, if he makes that tackle, it's 4th and 5. Maybe they pick up 4th and 5 anyway. But those tackles, for a team that had tackled so well in Michigan State, certainly costly. Cannot have that against Ohio State. There's going to be missed tackles against Ohio State just because they're good. I mean, some people out there, old football players, will be like, no, it doesn't matter who you play, you should never miss tackles, and that might be true. But you can be a pretty good tackling team, but against Ohio State, you're going to miss more tackles than you will any other game. The little guy, Dobbins, difficult to tackle. Fields is a pretty big dude. He's not the easiest to tackle. Terrell Pryor back in the old days was really difficult to tackle for a quarterback. The receivers are big. So that's going to be a thing. So enough about that. I went too long with some of that stuff. I apologize. Maybe you guys like that stuff. I like looking into it. We try to be different at SpartanMag.com, different on this. We go X's and O's, try to look under the hood to really take a look at the cause and effect and dynamics that lead to the scoreboard. A lot of times, it's easy to just talk about scoreboard, look at the stats, talk about that, and wring your hands about what's going wrong, and I'll sit around and get in your sewing circle and get a big echo chamber different. We try to be different. Doesn't mean we're better. We're just different. All right. Lucinda Stazuk says, do you think Michigan State was looking ahead to Ohio State on defense just a little bit? I had someone say that. I think it's possible. It's not like, looking ahead, it's not like you're consciously doing it. Not that I played at that level. I don't know what they're thinking, but I doubt they're like actually looking ahead. But is the intensity down just a notch? They had so much to prove at Northwestern. Road trip, business trip, got it done. Coming back in that D'Antonio talks about the 4 phases or whatever. They're in that phase of the schedule where they're going to go in these road games at Wisconsin, at Ohio State. Well, now you're at home. Do you exhale a little bit? Maybe so. Good question. Brian Watanabe, which of the true freshmen do you expect to have a biggest impact the rest of the year? That's MSU Dragon on the bunker. True freshman. Well, the long snapper is kind of important. Let's take a look here. True freshman. Gotta get my list of true freshmen. Today's show is brought to you by SpartanMag.com. Waiting for my internet to load here a little bit slower than it should be. I'm going to have to move on to the next question. All right, here we go. Rob South, or 4 deep or 5 deep with punters. And he's talking about something else. Jim Curtis, what kind of wrinkles should we expect offensively and defensively this week? We talked about that a little bit. That's my guy from Temecula, California. Wrinkles. If you knew, then they wouldn't be wrinkles. It's impossible to predict wrinkles. True freshman. Let's see, Trayvon Morgan. He's not going to play, but I see him in the hallway sometimes, and that's the biggest wide receiver I have ever seen in my life. This way, and he's a big dude too. Other ones, Brandon Wright, not going to see him. Luke Fulton, he's playing some good piano, but we're not going to see him. J.D. Duplain, that was a surprise. Got on the field last week for 9 snaps. He's in the playing group now. They want to make sure that these freshmen offensive linemen, they're on the verge of getting into the playing group. If and when Duplain or Dobbs or Samac, if and when they have to play, they would rather it not be brand new to them. So they want to try to get them into the games a little bit. But the problem is you got Ohio State and Wisconsin coming up, 2 of the best defenses in the country. But Duplain is supposed to be playing more. Ohio kid, does he play this week? I'm not sure. Julian Barnett, we're seeing him more and more. He's over pink eye now. Might see him more. Anthony Williams, of course, looks like he's the number 2 running back. Jefferson got in there, can do some pass protection. They got him in there to run that rub route and that 3rd down completion. But he also ran on 4th and short. He got stopped. It's the second time he's gotten stopped on 4th and short this year. I think there were designs on Jefferson becoming the short yardage back, but I think that is not going to happen anymore. I would kind of think and maybe hope. So Anthony Williams, is he the number 2 running back? If he catches that pass on 3rd and 1, yeah, he scores a touchdown. Lewerke, I kind of gave him a little bit of gut. And I love Brian Lewerke, great kid. Good for the program, great for the community, good for college football. As a reporter, I try to call it like I see it. I said that it was the wrong idea for him to throw it. He should have ran it, picked up the 3rd and 1. Looking at it again, if he completes that, it is a touchdown. Because then 4th and 1, they were stopped. They're trying to go up 14-0 right there. So he chooses to throw it, but he's inaccurate. Put a little too much on it. Maybe too much on it because he's running. If you're running and throwing whatever you're running, if you're running 10 miles an hour and throw it, you're adding 10 miles an hour to the velocity, I think. Physics majors out there, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. But It was inaccurate, a little too hot. I don't want to compare everybody to Joe Montana, but Montana would have just feathered that in there, right? Make that play 14-0, and the fourth quarter is not as stressful as it was. Others that are still, that I'm not expecting to see: Maverick Hansen, Berghorst, Marcel Lewis, Tate Halleck. If you haven't seen them yet, probably not going to see him. Peyton Thorne, not going to see him. Trey Mosley, possible at wide receiver. Haven't seen him yet, but Michigan State's thin at wide receiver. Could he get on the field? Not sure. Michael Fletcher, probably not going to see him. Nick Samac, possibly. Spencer Brown, no. Spencer Brown was a 4-star offensive lineman out of Walled Lake. I said that he had a long way to go, that he wasn't ready to play offensive line at this level. I thought he was more of a defensive tackle type of guy. Could be wrong. They liked him in the spring, but we haven't seen him. I'm not surprised it's taken him. I just don't know about the balance there for offensive line for him. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. But Samac, Duplain, and Dobbs are ahead of Brown. Those are the 3 offensive linemen. Rarely would you see offensive linemen being the most likely true freshmen to have extended roles as true freshmen, but that's the case there. Let's see, what else do we have here? From Austin, Texas, Old Tuck. That's the first time Old Tuck told us where he's from. Austin, Texas, huh? Old Tuck's down there keeping Austin weird. We appreciate that. He says, I like this Chase Klein kid. I do too, and I liked him in the green-white game, not just because of his stats, but the way he was producing those stats. We wrote about that in the summer. He says, is he a modern-day Timmy Moore or Kurt Larson? Number 3. I know that Kurt Larson was number 3, Old Tuck. You don't have to tell me what number Kurt Larson wore. You don't have to tell me what number Kurt Larson wore. He used to have that big neck roll out there getting interceptions like a former basketball player and stuff. Kurt Larson, good linebacker from the old days. Larson was a good one. Tim Moore was more of a psycho. Chase Klein, somewhere in between. I think Chase Klein is kind of a John Reschke guy a little bit. DMC, the microphone master DMC, says, Barnett, hear anything on his progress? Barnett. Julian Barnett? Just talked about him, not really sure. I lost my place here. We got a lot of questions here. I kind of messed up. All right, Ron Armstrong making an appearance out of Jackson, Michigan. I think it was Jackson, Michigan. I should know that movie. Sorry about that. Long John. Giving a hand for movie. Paul Fance and Dr. Green and White from Howell, Michigan. Is it possible that Ohio State simply has not faced a decent defense yet? Can Michigan State frustrate them? It's possible. And Fields is doing some beautiful things. And his stats were crazy. They're always crazy. Ohio State's averaging 52 points a game. They're allowing 8 points a game. They're outscoring teams 52-8. Against Nebraska, Fields threw for 212, 15 out of 21. Ohio State rushed for 368 and only threw 7 incompletions. It's troublesome. Nebraska's shaky, but are they that shaky? I was watching some of the second half, and by that time, Nebraska just wasn't in their gaps. I was like, man, they're making gap errors. This is not that impressive. But then when I went back and watched the first half, Nebraska was okay in their gaps for like the first 14 minutes, you know. So that happened later when they kind of quit. Is it possible they've not played a good team? Yeah, you could say that, but is Michigan State a good team? Do we know Michigan State's a good team? I know they're ranked number 25. I know Michigan State can play well in spats. If Michigan State eliminates the turnovers, they're going to play hard and physical on defense. You know that. Eliminate a lot of those procedural mistakes. Lewerke had a good game, brought him back, had some real good plays, but he also had some fog-out plays too. He's got to play better and better. And he knows that. He needs to go and have that type of game he had when they won at Penn State a few years ago. Except this Ohio State's better than that Penn State team was. Bradley Cruz, Northeast New England, or Northeast Nebraska. I don't know what any stands for, Mr. Cruz. Thanks for the vids. First time viewing live. Go green. Thanks, Bradley. Ron Armstrong, they're playing the varsity this weekend, talking about Michigan State going to Columbus. He's right. Gregory Wank, rolling pocket like MSU did against Ohio State in 1998. Rolling pocket, they were a 17-point underdog in 1998. Ohio State was ranked number 1. Ohio State's ranked number 4 now, but some people think they're the best team in the country. I think they're playing the best so far. Can they do it all year? Not sure. Rolling pocket, Michigan State did some of that day. Michigan State also hit, that's a different era, different head coach, John Cooper. Michigan State hit Ohio State with some hot reads, those slants. They got loose on some of those hot read slants, side adjustments. And then Julian Peterson had a big day. Robert Smith had a big day. Ohio State got off to a lead, 24-9 or something like that, way back in '98, historic upset victory. I think part of what allowed Michigan State to win that game is that Ohio State had such an easy start. Is that strange? Sports psychology creeping there a little bit. Ohio State, I think, when you watch them now, we'll know more about them after this weekend. Their defense is playing so much better. They're playing more zone now. They mix it up. I'm about to say, depending on what Ohio State does the rest of the year, if Ohio State goes 12-0, gets in the playoff, wins the game, plays for the title, and that's hard to do. I was just talking about this with Ron Armstrong in the podcast last week. I don't care what the sport is. If you look really great at the beginning of the year, it is so hard to remain great for the entire year. It's just hard to do. We will see if Ohio State can do it or not. I'll believe it when I see it. But boy, they are good. And they are talented. Everybody can see that. Chase Young was a 5-star defensive end from Maryland. Dobbins out of Texas was a 4-star. That corner was a 5-star out of Texas, I think it was. And even the other corner is a 5-star out of Florida. Those corners are just excellent. Corners, Zuda, what was his name? Jeffrey Okuda, and then Damon Arnett, the other one. Big dudes. And then Chase, what's his name? What's the other guy? Oh, Sean Wade is in the corner. They play 3 corners. Sean Wade is the 5-star out of Florida. I mean, Wade, Okuda, and Arnett, big-time corners. Here's what I'm going to say. Urban Meyer was great, ran a great program, won a lot of games. I want to see what Ohio State does this weekend and the rest of the year. I am on the verge of saying that Ohio State underachieved under Urban Meyer. Yep, I said it. That's what I said. That's what I'm starting to look at now. Yeah, they were good on offense. They won a lot of games. But the defense was crap last year. They tried to fix it by bringing in Grinch from Washington State. You had Grinch and Schiano. Probably too many cooks in the kitchen. Didn't work. Last year's defense was bad by Ohio State standards. I mean, you saw them against TCU giving up all those yards. They beat TCU, but they looked like garbage. Gap assignment errors. Then they got out there against Penn State. Should have gotten beat. Penn State was up by 13 with 6 minutes to go, whatever it was. Ohio State comes back and wins. Shouldn't have won. Penn State was slicing them and dicing them. Then you saw it happen against Purdue. Purdue beats them by 4 touchdowns. Underachieving. Should have lost 2 of those games. And then the rest of the year, yeah, they beat Michigan. Beat Michigan State. That game was tight for a while, but they kept punting Michigan State inside the 5-yard line 3 or 4 or 5 times. Michigan State couldn't move the ball, and eventually the defense caved in and then ends up winning 26-6 or whatever it was. But then Ohio State goes and they play Washington in the Rose Bowl. Washington's not that great. They win. Yeah, great. Win the bowl game. So they're, what's the end of 12-1, whatever it was. Great season. Underachieved at 12-1? Yeah. Purdue had no business beating them by 4 touchdowns. If they lose by 5, maybe they get into the playoff. Underachieved. Underachieved the way they played that eraser shuttle game against TCU and Penn State. Underachieved. The year before, when Michigan State was undefeated, went down to Columbus and lost 48-3. Do you remember what happened the week before that game? Ohio State lost to Iowa, 55-24. Gave up 55 points to Iowa. Yeah, they underachieved, and then that woke them up, and then they were dialed in against Michigan State, beat them 48-3. That same year, they barely beat Penn State 39-38. That same year, they lost to Oklahoma by 2 touchdowns. Yeah, they underachieved the last 2 years. Ohio State did. I mean, that year, they ended up going to the Cotton Bowl. Is that the year they went to the Cotton Bowl and beat USC? So they have that loss to Oklahoma and Iowa. So then they don't have to worry about playing Clemson and Alabama and Georgia and the great teams, right? That's where their roster is, talent-wise. And they underachieved, and they never had to go play those teams because they underachieved and tripped up in the regular season. Yes, now that I look at the way they're playing defense now, with Madison in there running it. And we said that on this podcast back before the season started. When everybody was picking Michigan to win the Big Ten, I had Ohio State, and I said that still Ryan Day's still running the offense, and they have all that weaponry, and we assume Fields is going to be pretty good. And then I said, you take all that, and their defense is going to be better. Remember when I told you people that? It's happened. And we'll have to wait and see how good this defense actually is. Wait for the rest of the year. If they go 12-0 and get in the playoff and win a game, then I will say, yes, they underachieved under Urban Meyer here in the last couple of years. Boom, I said it. What else we got? Okay, we're over time. We got to zip through these things. I don't want to go an hour 55 like we did last time. Because you guys got people to do. Good. You got people to do. You got things to do. John Blair, 2344 comp. Do you think that the fans turning on Heyward had anything to do with him transferring? I'm not aware of fans turning on him, but if they did, we know how fans can be on Twitter. That could have been a factor. I mean, I know that Tyler Higbee got a little cranky about it. Would not surprise me. And I think I talked about this last week in the football building after the Arizona State game. There was a thing. They've got this projector that they show videos on and stuff as players come in and out of practice. And it said, this week's devotional. I took a picture of it. Among other things, it said, "Don't listen to the criticism" or something like that. They were acknowledging whoever wrote the devotional. They called it a devotional. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's just like, I don't know what it is. It's not anyway. It said there was. Whoever put that together was aware of outside criticism that was infiltrating the players. That's what Izzo talks about with Twitter, that these players take it so seriously at 20 years of age that it can mess with them. I don't doubt that's a possibility, because people did turn on Heyward on our message board a little bit. I don't know what they're saying on Twitter. I don't follow that stuff. I don't know what people say on Twitter. When people tweet me, I don't read it. I tweet out, but I don't take tweets in. Sometimes I don't know how to do it. Back in the old days, now I just don't even care. But I'm not aware of what people are saying to Heyward. Some of you guys might be aware. I don't doubt that they got on him. I don't doubt that it might have struck a nerve. I don't doubt that it might have had an impact. Ron Armstrong, I think it was a check with me that Lewerke missed. I think it was a check with me that Lewerke missed. Which play was that? Oh, the fourth down? Okay. Interesting. All right. And Lewerke had a real good game in some ways. He was accurate with the deep fades to Stewart and White in the first quarter. Accurate with the deep fades. And then he had the deep post that Cody White, I'm not going to call it a drop, but he failed to complete the catch. Just going over some Lewerke stuff in terms of errors. Remember the near interception on Michigan State's opening drive? Like he throws that hitch out there and corner gets it. Could have been touchdown the other way, 7-0 deficit. On that one, that was Cody White, and it looked to me, I don't know, sometimes that happens, but where the ball was thrown, it looked to me like he was throwing a slant. And where Cody White went, it looked like he was running a hitch. So you run a hitch and he throws a slant, there have been some same-pageness problems. Wide receiver, quarterback, a few times this year. Cost them that third down play against Arizona State, leading to a missed field goal. Talked earlier about the Larice Nelson one. That one was almost a pick six. I don't know what's going on there, but against these cats, Ohio State, if you want to get better and you want to make a run at 9 wins, do some big things, maybe more, that stuff's got to get ironed out. As far as Lewerke goes, he was I'm not going to say hot and cold. I'd say he did a lot of really good things to bring them back, and D'Antonio loved his personality on the way back. Even the third touchdown drive when they went up 21-14 on that 2-minute drill, he threw to White on a curl for 9 yards against zone, sitting down. That was good. They were on the same page on that one. Threw it to White again on a gain of 16, scramble rules, come back on the same page on that one. Then the touchdown on the deep corner route to Stewart. Real nice throw on that one. I mean, he did some good things. In terms of drops, I had like 3 or 4 drops and 3 or 4 failed to finishes. Anthony Williams called that one a drop. Matt Dotson on the second 4, hot. The ball's in the air before he turns around, and drops it. The quarterback has to trust that if he puts it in the air, even before he turns around, the guy's got to catch, especially tight end. That's a drop. Ended up punting on that one. That was a drive killer. And then there was a zone read RPO. 7 minutes to go in the game, 1st and 10, down to the 40, thrown down to the 45-yard line. That was the drive on Michigan State. Ended up kicking a field goal to go up 31-24. Real nice RPO by Michigan State. They commit to the run. Down the sideline, Cody White drops it at the 45-yard line. At the time, it was 28-24, seemed like a really expensive drop. Michigan State picked that up, went ahead and kicked a field goal. But those are 3 drops. Other one, Cody White, deep post early in the game. Would have been a somewhat difficult catch. You need a good wide receiver to catch that. Is it a drop or did he fail to finish a catch? I'll call that a fail to finish. Ohio State will finish those with their receivers. Stewart on a corner route in the end zone in the second quarter. Out there, could have caught it, touchdown, dropped it, but he scored on the next play. So Lewerke got those yards, they got those points. But Lewerke ends up, 14 out of 28 or something like that, 50%. There were some drops in there. Stewart on a dig route, 3rd and 10, early in the fourth quarter. Michigan State down 24-21. Dig over the middle. Stewart drops it. Big drop when you're down by 3, punting it back to him. Big drop. Can't have that one. Well, the coverage was pretty good. No, that was a drop. I never got a real great look at it, but I think that was a drop. There was a different one when it was a 2-minute drill into the first half when Stewart had that one-handed attempted catch and didn't catch it. Well, Lewerke missed him. It should have been more accurate than that. Easy for me to say. You're drinking water, hanging out in the bunker. That should have thrown a more accurate pass. But some people thought it might have been a drop. No, that's not a drop. If you're extending like this, Stewart was mad at himself. He thought he should have made a circus catch, and that's what he expects of himself. So he failed to finish a tough catch, but the quarterback missed him. But there are drops. You want to win the game this week? Can't have any of those drops. Errors, 3rd down, when Dotson and Cody White both go in motion at the same time and they end up botching up the play, incomplete. 3rd and 3 in a tight game, illegal motion. 99% sure that was on Dotson because Lewerke looked at White, brought White in motion. And then on the blocking scheme, Dotson, it looked like was just supposed to wham block the guy. It looked like it was maybe a zone read, split zone, but the tight end, rather than going in motion, was supposed to wait for the snap and then wham block the guy coming across like split zone. Looked pretty obvious that it was Dotson that time. Can't have that. If Michigan State's going to make a run at winning some of these games, make a run at Penn State, who looks better than I thought on defense. Penn State quarterback, a little better than I thought too. Got to erase those things. Where are we at here? All right, Ron Armstrong used these two, but don't that play on the first down, but not that play on the first down. I'm not understanding that one. DMC, I agree, Jim. Stewart shouldn't be kick returner. You're talking about where all right. The touchdown to Siebert, that nod route was new. Yes, thanks. And I mentioned that in the VCast. He did a nod. I've seen some people call it even a juke route. I compared it to the Steve Smith move in basketball. But yeah, that in the red zone, thank you, Ron, because I talked about in the VCast, that was new. Crunch time, red zone, that's when they trot out a new play. Seibert, nod, post, touchdown. The week before it at Northwestern, it was just a post. This time, nod out. That was new, and it was subtle, but also elaborate. Is that possible? Subtle and elaborate? But thanks, Ron. That was new. JPB1576 says, we'll need a few to keep it close this week. A few new wrinkles. I agree. There will be some. Scott Parrish, IU fan here. Good game, Sparty fans. Had a great day other than the final score. The people of Lot 39 were awesome to tailgate with around. Thanks, Scott. Indiana people, good people. And I like this rivalry. It's the border skirmish. I was going to get one of those old brass spittoons up here. You can get that, the rivalrytrophy.com thing. I think I might do that. They're both in the Big Ten East, going to be playing every year. Pretty clean played, I'd say. And it's a pretty good skirmish, the border skirmish. Reggie Stewart, can't lie, I'm very impressed with the offense behind Brad Salem this year. We wouldn't expect you to lie there, Reggie. We would not expect you to lie. Rick Nash, Mike Penix looks like a phenom, looks like a future NFL quarterback. Lewerke made some huge plays too and led team to victory. Great quarterback play in that game. Thanks for chiming in. I agree. That was an entertaining game made so by some excellent quarterbacking. Ron Armstrong, Ohio State equals vertical and crossing routes. You mean Ohio State's going to run those? Yeah, rather than bubbles. Yeah. And, yeah, they get those deep digs going too, don't they? And those receivers go up and get it. Fields is good. I meant to get into this a minute ago. Good numbers. I want to see I'm going to watch more of them this week. I don't know if, I was watching the Indiana game a couple times. I thought that maybe the ball didn't come out real quick. I'm not sure. For instance, I'll bet Penix processes quicker than Fields. I was watching Fields a couple times. Like Shea Patterson, I think that's one of his problems. When he's in the pocket, he doesn't process real well. I want to watch Fields a little bit more. Throws a good percentage, but it's just been so easy for him. Can Michigan State change the hieroglyphics a little bit? Bring some pressures, get Willikis a couple of times. Yeah, it's possible. You could induce, not only bring his productivity down a couple notches, but induce some errors. That's what you have to hope for. Scotty Longhorn is single. Good for him. Ron Armstrong, I said during the game, it felt like they were dialed into our signals. Yeah, Ron, I've not talked to you since the Skull Session podcast last week, but I've heard some things, and they just happened to scratch where it itches right now a few times. I do know for a fact that on the sideline they buttoned it down and concealed more and more because they thought something was up. Again, to Indiana's credit. It's one thing to know what they're doing, but then you got a quarterback who's going to have zip and accuracy and some of those man-sized receivers making it happen. Indiana, so I'm looking at Indiana, and, Michigan State staggered and stumbled and stuff, but Michigan State did not play well, but I'm coming out of that game now thinking Michigan State beat a pretty good team. All right, so next week Indiana's going to beat Rutgers. Then they go and they're going to win at Maryland. Then they go at Nebraska. Yeah, I think they're going to win at Maryland. I think that they used a lot of gas early in the year. That handshake between Loxley and Franklin was interesting, by the way. It was very brief. It was like a women's basketball handshake. You ever seen those women's basketball handshakes? Those girls don't get along. Loxley and Franklin were coaches at Maryland under Friedgen. I don't think they're on each other's Christmas card list, though. Penn State, they enjoy running up on Michigan State. They tried to run it up on Pittsburgh last year. They ran it up on Maryland a couple times. But they're unrivaled, of course. They're unrivaled. They don't have a rival. No rivals. I liked Penn State. I want to like Penn State as people. I like a lot of what they used to stand for. But, and they've still got some good people there, and I like a lot of what they do. But the current situation, I've seen better things for the sport of college football. I digress. So, Indiana, who is good for college football. I like that little stadium down there, man. It's not so little anymore. It's clean. It's good. It's good. Kind of like it. At Nebraska, October 22nd. I'm going to toss that one up. Northwestern played better this weekend. Then they got some tough games there, Penn State and Michigan down the stretch. If Michigan still has their wheels on. They look like this week like they still have their wheels on. I wasn't so sure before, but I think Michigan State beat a pretty good team. Didn't play real well, and that's what happens. If you don't play real well against a pretty good team, you get in trouble, and they got in trouble, and it was deserved. Let's see, where did Antoine Simmons come from? Another very impressive linebacker at Michigan. IU fans knew about Bocce. Simmons seemed to come out of nowhere, and he's awesome. Yeah, Antoine Simmons from Ann Arbor. He's a big-time recruit. Has been second string behind Andrew Dowell for a while, and I thought that he would be more productive than Andrew Dowell. However, Simmons, like D'Antonio said last night, has to do a better job keeping leverage on the ball. Leverage is one thing. Ron Armstrong and I in the Skull Session talked about the 4th and 13 play that got out, the key play against Arizona State. Simmons went with a receiver too long and lost his leverage on that one. A number of players made mistakes on that game-altering and season-altering play. Simmons also, there was a play right after Michigan State went for it on 4th down and was stopped. Indiana had the ball in the very first play. Stevie Scott gained 19 yards on an inside zone. On that one, Antoine Simmons was late to his gap. Again, it's happened a few times. So he was late to his gap, and the H-back gets out on him at about 5 yards. And now Simmons is trying to retrack, and he ends up getting pancaked. Because the H-back is so far out on him, the running back has a two-way go, and then Xavier Henderson misses a tackle. And that fuels the drive. 19 yards, they go down, touchdown, 7-7 ball game. Antoine Simmons made some real loud plays. The 4th down stoppage. The 4th down stoppage that he had with Simmons, I don't know what Indiana was trying to do blocking-wise. There was a big split between the tackle and the tight end, and that was his gap. And it's a run play in that direction, and he's got that gap, and it's wide open. He just shot right. He didn't beat anybody to make that play. But when he makes a play, it is quick, and he's a hard hitter, and he's a good player. But like D'Antonio said last night, he needs to do a better job keeping leverage on the ball. I assume being late to his gap on this play is another manner of saying keep leverage on the ball. Simmons has been good, but he's making some mistakes that Dowell didn't make. Dowell was not real physical early in his career, and he learned to become physical by the time he was a senior. Simmons, I thought, would have no trouble playing with physicality, and that's been true, and he plays fast. But some of the gap integrity, some of the run fits with Simmons, not good enough. And they need to get in the film room and get that ironed out. There's no one really behind him. Well, Brandon Randall was supposed to be the guy that played a little bit in the slot, Klein a little bit. There's no one behind him pushing him for playing time to make him get it right. Right now, if he keeps making mistakes, he's going to keep starting. And that's a problem with the Tom Izzo has seen in basketball over the years. If you don't have someone behind you threatening your playing time and you're making mistakes and you're still starting, then you're just going to stay Chris Hill the rest of your career as a defensive player until you're a senior when you actually go to the bench. Chris Hill, great guy. Love him. Finance major, good guy, but started from day one and didn't have to play great defense from day one. And he never got better on defense. Simmons needs to get better on defense if this team wants to take it up a level. Michael Schwartz talking about Simmons, Reggie Stewart. Simmons, you guys are answering these on your own. Thanks. Desert Spartan, hello from beautiful and sunny Chandler, Arizona. Sorry, comp, I'm running late tonight. So, Desert Spartan, you're tardy. Let's see here. Desert Spartan, that's your second tardy. One more tardy and you got detention. And I think this week Amy Foudy is overseeing detention. You don't want to deal with her. All right. Scott should have went. It's Amy Foudy. Excuse me. My throat does that once in a while. I gotta get that checked. Excuse me. It's live internet here. Sorry, everybody. Ron Armstrong. Scott should have went eyes to 2 soon as 1 vacates. All right, Scott. Let's see here. Scott. Josiah Scott should have went eyes to 2 as soon as 1 vacates. Okay, so he should have picked up the number 2 as soon as the 1 vacates. Even in cloud, he's supposed to take that all the way back to the goal line. We'll have to talk about that. My light is out, and my throat is about done. And it's been an hour and a half, so I think we're going to just wrap this one up. Let's see. We've got some other questions. I think there's a few questions, but I'm not going to get to those. And let me go through the mailbag here real quick. If there's anything I meant to get to. Okay. Mike Bowe from Granville. How can Michigan State defend the slot while still remaining stout to the run? One thing I wanted to get to about that is that Alabama and Clemson the last couple of years, they would, a lot of times on first down, they would play press on first down to take away that slot. Then on third down, they would play more zone. Michigan State's kind of the opposite, although they mixed in man a little bit more. But that's one way to do it. But in general, if you want to play +1 to stop the run and also defend the slot, you're going to have to go cover 1 with 1 safety deep, and you're going to be more susceptible to deep plays. So you can stop the run and cover the slot, but you're going to give up more deep plays. You're going to be more susceptible to give up deep plays. MSU Polo from Rockford says the coverage issues in the fourth quarter adjustments made to combat Indiana's air attack. I'm interested in your breakdown of those. We talked a little bit about that already. I'm curious about what you expect Michigan State to do differently from a base defense standpoint, if anything, on Saturday against Ohio State. Nothing. I don't think Michigan State will do anything differently. They're going to press. They're going to play quarters. They'll blitz and do cover 3. They'll blitz and do man-to-man once in a while. They'll do more of what they did. Michigan State ran 1 zone blitz. They call it zone blitz, zone pressure. It's not a zone blitz if only 4 people are coming. It's called a pressure zone. It's a zone blitz if it's a blitz if there's 5 coming. Willick has dropped, and I think Panashuk might have dropped. Jacob Panashuk. Michigan State brought 2 linebackers. The old school zone blitz, zone pressure these days. They did that once, and Indiana happened to just have a perfect play caller for it. I don't know how they could have. That must have just been shell game fortunate, because Michigan State has not run a zone pressure all year, so they couldn't possibly have picked up a signal on something that was that brand new. But you might see some new things like that, as zone pressure here and there, even though that one was stopped. You might see, but no, Michigan State's going to do base with some different wrinkles. They want to throw things at Fields if they can get into a groove, but Michigan State wants to stop the run. It's the first thing with Dobbins. I mean, you got to stop the run first. So don't expect them to come out running the Buddy Ryan Bear defense. Fact Man Spartan from East Lansing, Michigan. Will Michigan State bring more blitzes to pressure Fields? No, probably about the same. They blitz here and there, right? I don't think they'll blitz more. I don't think they'll blitz less. Michigan State did blitz less against Arizona State. They didn't want to chase that guy into a play. Is Fields in that category? No, I think they'll when they do blitz him, they're going to want to keep a fence around him, though, because they don't want to chase him into a play either. But I think they'll blitz more than they did against Arizona State, but not in an astronomical amount. They're just going to do what they do, I think. Different forms of what they do. Will MSU run other forms of option besides RPO or zone read? So far, they haven't. But could they run speed option or some other traditional option plays that they haven't put on film yet? Yeah, that's possible. You know, Dave Warner used to like the speed option with the quarterback in the red zone. They did it with Connor Cook. They did it in the bowl game against Washington State. Salem hasn't done speed option yet. They've done zone read with the quarterback, but no speed option. But yeah, that could happen at some point. But it's maybe interesting, noteworthy that they have not done it of yet. Maybe they won't all year. You'll find out when I do. 428 Grove Street. How will we slow down Ohio State's pass rush? We talked about that before. Screens, and like I said, he can maybe slide the pocket and chip a little bit in combination, but you can't do the same thing over and over. So at some point, Higbee's going to have to get it done. And it won't just be Higbee, it'll be Reed also. Higbee with one of his better pass protection games this past weekend against an average Indiana team. Pro Football Focus had him at 74%. That's green, that's winning. Reed was at 65%, which is light green, which is like B minus, C plus. The week before against Northwestern, Higbee was in the red at 30%. That's not a passing grade. Reed was 50%. That's about a C minus. That's Pro Football Focus. That's not official. Just telling you what they had. And also, Grove Street says it seems like with Brian Lewerke in the offense, they do their best in the hurry-up offense. Any chance we will see more of that? It's a great point. Could Michigan State increase the tempo a little bit? When they get going, they snap it at about 21 seconds right now, which is pretty good tempo. It's not ultra fast. You know, the fastest, like Utah State last year, snap it at 10 seconds. Back in the Chip Kelly days, they would snap at 11 or 12. So Michigan State's snapping it at 20. So it's fast, but still slow enough that they can change. Because if you're going that fast, you're not changing formations and you're not changing personnel. You're just trying to gas the opponent a little bit. I think most coordinators would rather get into some play calls and different formations rather than just working on, trying to win in that with that method. So here and there, could they go into a 2-minute? It's possible. But also, would you consider going slower to decrease the possessions and shorten the game? I'd be more inclined to do that, like Arizona State does. MSU DeBest, number 8, says, what did you see Indiana do against Ohio State that Michigan State can do? In general, where can the Michigan State offense find success against Ohio State? Well, remember, Penix didn't play against Ohio State. Ramsey played. Ramsey's okay, but that was a whole different outfit. So, not a lot. Question, MSU Wank out of Ypsilanti. He asks me to rank the Big Ten football venues 1 to 14 as far as game day atmosphere goes. Stadium and game day. I'm going to go, I like Penn State. A lot of people rip on Penn State because it looks like an erector set. I kind of like it. I like the mountains there. I just feel like, usually when Michigan State plays there, it's kind of cold. This year it'll be, this year it's here, right? Last year it was on the road in the earlier fall. I like going to Penn State. It just feels like football. I just like it. I like it. I can't help it. I'm not going to lie to you. I like Ohio State. The people down there are whack jobs, a lot of them, and they're scary. But that stadium is just big and historic and loud, and people are into it, maybe too much. It's closer to the city, so it kind of has a little more of an NFL feel, which there's a lot of loud, but Ohio State's different, but I like going there. I like Nebraska a lot. Nice, classic stadium. It's a downtown stadium, so the tailgating is not great down there. But the stadium is big and impressive and clean and historic. The fans, of course, are great there. It's more, you get more of the restaurants around that place rather than tailgating. Penn State, it's tailgating. And no restaurants in the middle of nowhere, which is a wonder that you got a 105,000 seat stadium just in the middle of rural, mountainous America. I mean, people would come over from Europe and look at that and like, why is there a stadium that big in the middle of all this? Get there Saturday 7 times a year, you find out why. Wisconsin, crowd is good, stadium's good. Historic setting, historic stadium, it's getting that way. Historic setting, because Camp Randall used to be a prison camp during the Civil War. Did you know that? The tailgating, again, more city-like with Wisconsin, which is not my thing. I mean, sometimes I like that. I don't know. I like it to feel more like college, but it's got more of a Bears NFL flavor to it, in my opinion. People coming up from Chicago. That's my thought on Wisconsin, but it's good. I mean, the lake is beautiful and all that stuff. It's cool. Michigan's good. The stadium is historic. They've improved the stadium. It's not the quiet cereal bowl it used to be. Tailgating is okay, but the stadium, the location is not as good as Michigan State's. I mean, Michigan State stadium is historic too. All these stadiums are historic. Michigan State, there's been some big games played there. I love the river. I love parking at the computer building and walking over the bridge by Wells Hall to the stadium when the leaves are changing, the river and all that stuff, the trees. If you need, for me, just me personally speaking, I like trees being close proximity to a stadium. To me, that just feels like college. Northwestern has that, but the rest of it is kind of rinky-dink, but it's good in some ways. But Michigan State's got like the campus, got the river, got trees, river runs through it, and the stadium is a legit stadium. The stadium is not as impressive as Ohio State's or Nebraska's. If you'd have taken like Ohio State Stadium and put it on the banks of the Red Cedar or Nebraska's stadium and put it there, then you got the best of both worlds. Iowa, I like it. You got the city going on and people are into it. You got some tailgating there. People are friendly. They're close to this field, which is cool. But I've not sat in the stadium at all these places. You guys would know more than I would in terms of sitting in the stadium. I've sat in a few of them, but I'm usually in the press box, which is not a really great representation of everything. Minnesota's cool. It's in the city. It's on the edge of the city. New stadium. That's nice. Indiana's improved. Maryland is kind of weird. It's kind of dormant. Rutgers is kind of dormant. It's got potential. Purdue, Northwestern is whatever, and Illinois is. I like Illinois. The columns on the outside and the Red Grange statue. Some of it I kind of like. The bands, not bad out in the parking lot, but it's, So the top three, I got Penn State, Ohio State, Nebraska, and then Wisconsin's kind of there. Then the next tier, Michigan State, Iowa. Then Minnesota is just kind of in its own category below those. Could rise. And then the bottom tier, Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers, Purdue. And then the bottom is Northwestern Illinois. Although I sat in the stands at Northwestern a couple weeks ago, enjoyed it. It's good in some ways because you don't have people crawling all over you. I don't know. We're going to wrap it up. That'll do it. We went an hour and a half longer than I wanted to. Sorry my voice almost messed up. That happens once in a while, but that's going to happen. When you're in live television. This isn't television though. Light went out, whatever. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everybody checking us out. Tell your friends about SpartanMag.com and SpartanMag Live here every Monday. Tell your enemies too. We'll accept them also. Jim Comparoni, SpartanMag.com. Check out SpartanMag.com. We're going to be looking at Ohio State. Got a press conference on Tuesday. We'll have coverage at SpartanMag.com all week. If you're not a subscriber, become one. We'd like to have you there. Until next Monday, take care and have a good, safe trip for those of you going to Columbus.